Welcome everyone to this video. You know how we do it on this channel. We help the best to enter and settle in the USA via quality grad school opportunities. And today I just want to do a quick one for you guys. I did a little research and I came up with what certain graduate admissions committee use to grade your grad school applications. So I'm going to talk about one of them today, which captures what I found in most of the samples that I laid my hands on. So without wasting time, let's get started. What one of the rubrics look like, and you can see the criteria and how they scored each candidate based on the criteria. Now you have high 3 points, medium 2 points, and low 1 point. And of course, there is a space to comment on other unique things. But what we are going to do is to go through the criteria and look at what is under high or medium and low. But in general, you want to make sure you are here in the high range, okay? You want to make sure you are somewhere in the high for the purpose of your application. But if you're in the medium for certain criteria, it might be okay. It just depends on how competitive that group of applicants are for that application cycle. So let's look at the first one, the applicant's resume or CV. Now, you can see all the information they would look at on your CV. Now, what they need to see is all previous university degrees, programs, certificates, and emphasis related to science or science education. So this particular department is a science education department. So they want to see all your degrees and prior experiences in this field as well. So all your formal or informal teaching or other educational experiences. Now they want to see as well your research activities. We've always talked about how important that is for grad school. And you can see any other relevant details. Keyword relevant. So you can choose to put your experiences, maybe work experience, but if it's not so relevant to the position, it might not be very helpful. Now let's see what is under high. Now this document includes all of the key information points, that means all of these points, with minimal grammar and spelling mistakes, which demonstrates expected graduate level writing. So you can see that your CV has to be on point as well, and you should try to have another person review it because it shouldn't have any spelling mistakes. So you get a high score on that. And for medium, if it contains a minimal grammar or spelling mistakes, then you'll probably be on medium. You lose a whole 1 point there. And if the document does not contain any of these criteria, then you get medium. Now, if your document is unfocused, so it's not well arranged and the length is either too short to provide clear explanations or too long and redundant. So I know it's difficult to find a balance, but you just have to look at the CVs of people who have gone through this process. I always recommend that you contact someone in the field you are going to help you, to see if they can help you review some of this. And if you are following us on Bestman Academy on Instagram, I have on one of our highlights on the page my sample CV as well. So it's clear and straightforward. You can arrange your stuff based off of some of the headings that I have there. But you can, there is no one size fits all approach to how you write a CV for academia. You just have to make sure that it contains relevant information according to what you have seen in this rubric, and also make sure it doesn't have a lot of grammar mistakes and it's neat enough and clear so that they can easily understand what your qualifications are. Now, let's talk about the second criteria here: alignment with science education faculty research. Now, when they look at your CV, your back, they will, of course, they will have seen your background, and they will now have to evaluate if your background tallies with any of the faculty research areas in the department. Now, ideally, before you submit an application, I always advise, if you are an ardent follower of this channel, that you contact a faculty. At least one faculty should have contacted someone before you put in your application. Now, you can see here, before you can score high on this criteria, you can see that contact report filed by science education faculty. Now, not all departments will have this option, but you can see for this department, if someone has contacted you, you will report that, okay, this person has got in touch with me. And it could be, I don't know if they have a formal process of filing that report, but in most cases, in my experience, they just this is something they talk about during the application review itself. So when your name comes up, it will ring a bell on in someone's head, and they can report that, yeah, this person contacted me. So it's a sign of enthusiasm to join the department. So make sure you contact professors, and I've explained how to do that, how to contact professors. If you have not seen that video on how to contact professors, you should check the card that is displaying on the screen right now. Now, if you are going to score medium here, description of candidates' future research is aligned with science ed faculty, but candidate has not formally spoken with a faculty member. So we see that your goals kind of match with what we can offer, but you've not really spoken to anybody. Now, that's important, and I don't need to explain why, because we just talked about it. Now, if you're going to score low, no alignment evidence, and you've not made any effort to contact or connect with any faculty member. So you can see for these people, for this particular department, this is a whole, contacting professors is a whole 3 points on their own admission rubric. So it's important that you contact, and you have to contact like a pro. And I've given you videos on how to do that, so you have no excuse. Now let's move on. So prior teaching or education related experience. Now, I always say that when you go to the department's website, you should kind of understand how this department fund their students. So what are the activities? Do they do more of research or teaching? For example, I know in some education departments, they don't really have, most of them don't have enough or a lot of money for research, but they usually have a lot of undergrads, so most of the funding will come from teaching assistantships. Now, if as a grad student you would need some level of funding, then you have to be able to demonstrate that you are a good teacher, or you've been a good teacher in the past, or you have some teaching experiences. For international students, you would have to demonstrate that maybe you can communicate well in English, and they would know that via your TOEFL scores or your writing samples as well, and maybe during the interview. But you can see here that they want you to show some teaching experience, at least for this department. This might not be true for every department, but in most cases that I've seen, it's a plus if you can show that you are a good teacher and you have the experience. Better if you can, it's better if you even can show evidence of your achievements in teaching. Now you can see if you're going to score high, you should have more than 3 years teaching experience, because I mean, this is not always the case, but I think it's just important for them in this particular field because that's what most graduate students do. And I'm sure they would have explained these things on the department's website. So if you have more than 3 years, you score high. If you have about 3 years, your score will be medium, which is about 2. Then if you have less than 3 years, you score low on this particular point. Now let's move on to the next one, GRE and TOEFL. Now you can see that this is a requirement for the department, and of course to score high, they didn't really put a score on this rubric, but my guess is that the minimum score they are looking for will be 153. You know what is written here in the medium section. So at least 153 on verbal reasoning and at least 144 on quantitative reasoning. And I can understand why they want you to excel better in the verbal reasoning, because you will be doing more of education, more of English related stuff, not really mathematics related stuff that will be tested on the quantitative reasoning section of the GRE. Now, if you have at least 153 and 144 like described here, you will probably score low, like medium. But if you exceed this, my guess is that if you exceed this, then you would score, high. Now, a combination of those scores is 297. So there is this misconception that you have to score 300 to get admitted. It's not really true. There are a lot of people that I know that scored around 298, 297 and still got in, because they might not score high on GRE. GRE is not the only thing they grade when it comes to your admission chances. But it's just important because if you pass well, then you can be scored high on it. But if you, for example, for this particular people, if you score below this range, you would score low here. Now let's go to the next one quickly. Letters of recommendation. Your letters of recommendation, they said, concise letters written by professors, supervisors, and or administrators that can speak to the candidate's professional potential. So this is just not anybody. I know I've seen some people inbox me and say, can you write the recommendation for me? I mean, it's difficult to do that because you have to, if you have seen my video on recommendation letters, I think I should be able to put it on the screen, on the card here. This person has to be someone who can describe how they met you and how they have observed you closely in the past. So it's not just a random person. I mean, if I could, I would be happy to do it, but this is not just a random person, or else you are going to score low on your recommendation on this particular rubric if you just use anyhow referee. Now, some people also ask what should be on the recommendation letter. You can see an example here. So this letter should describe the applicant's intellect, scholarly abilities, and teaching ability. So you can see those are the things important to this department. If the department, if you have done your research and you know that they require technical research skills, for example, people in STEM, and if you have that, the recommendation letter should state how hardworking you are in the lab, how your technical abilities in learning stuff and doing stuff and achieving results with maybe limited resources. There is a lot of way you can coin all this stuff, but you can see that your recommenders should be able to describe with examples how you have demonstrated all these qualities in the past. Now, if you're going to score high, you can see that the applicant's abilities are high or exceptional in quality. So they really. So I know a lot of recommenders use just some generic letters for most people. That would not work most times. So what I usually advise candidates or you guys is to draft, make a draft of your own recommendation letter, and give it to that person. So just suggest it that they have these people have some requirements that we need to write in the letter, and I've drafted a suggestion for you for your consideration, and you hand the suggestion, the letter to that person. Most of the time, they would if it's a good recommender, they would help you edit and maybe add some things to it and just make it look more professional, and they will sign off on it. So you should be able to market yourself and just give your referee the draft, right? So if you're going to score low, I'm just going to go to low. Letters describe applicants' abilities as low or below average in quality. Now, of course, you should make sure that the people who will be your referees are not people that would talk down on your abilities. That's important. They should be able to speak highly of your ability. All right, let's move to the last part of this. Now, this is very, very, very important. The applicant statement of purpose. Statement of purpose. So your statement of purpose. You can see for this department, they said this particular document is to be used also as a writing sample. If you have seen my statement of purpose videos on this channel, where I broke down all the parts of a quality statement of purpose, I think I did 5 videos on that, paragraph by paragraph. So you should have no excuse on how to write a quality statement of purpose, and I should be able to link it on the screen right now. You would see that I mentioned that the importance of this is most departments use this as one of the important writing samples they would evaluate for each candidate. Now, I know you have publications, you have I don't know, maybe you have blog posts or whatnot, but this is likely going to be your own original writing. Your supervisor would probably help you with your publication, help you edit some stuff, but this will probably most likely be your own original writing, and they usually look at this critically over how your publication writing style is, so this is important. So for them, they need for these people, they need 3 to 4 page double spaced. So I usually recommend that you have about 2 to 3 pages double spaced, but you should always read the instruction. If they say they need a minimum of 3 pages, make sure you try to get to at least 2.5 pages, right? Okay, so don't do 2 pages and maybe 1 line on your third page. No, don't do that. Try to get to the half of the third page. Always read the instructions and see what they need. If the instructions are not clear, so you can write about 2 pages. That should be great. That's if they don't give specific page numbers. Now, these statements should have minimal grammar and spelling mistakes, which demonstrates expected graduate level writing abilities that include the following. Let's look at the following. The applicant's career goals. So you can see applicant's career goals is the first thing they described here. This is the first thing they want to see. Now, if you have seen those videos that I talked about, our statement of purpose videos, you will notice that we talked about this as the first thing that should come up early in this document, and we described that in paragraph 1 of our statement of purpose video on this channel. Again, I will link that video on the screen, and it will also be in the description below. It's important that you take this seriously. Now, apart from your career goals, you want to be clear about your career goals. The next thing we want to see is what are the potential areas of focus in your doctoral program, and why are you specifically interested in this program? You know, we talked about this to somewhere around paragraph 3 or 4 in the video that I talked about, you know, the one we made on this channel. So please make sure you look at that video to see how you can argue some of these points. So why you are interested in this program and the potential research interests aligned with faculty, you know, science ed faculty in our university. So your interest, of course, you should know this, it must align with the individual you should have emailed before, you know, or any other faculty in the department. Now, of course, you want to describe your prior experiences in science or science education, which we did somewhere in paragraph 2 and 3 of that video that I talked about. So find them in the description below. And of course, they will want to see your, even though they have your CV, you know, they still want to see you describe your previous university degrees, programs, certificates, and be able to emphasize what you gained from them and how they are a good fit to help you succeed in this PhD program or master's program you are applying for. So, of course, other information that might be relevant for their consideration. So that's those. If you look at this, you know, when I saw this, I was happy because we've already addressed all of these things in our statement of purpose videos. So if you use the sample on this channel, you would most likely score high points here, 3 points, or whatever points for the rubric that will be used for you. You will likely score high because we touched on every single aspect of your statement of purpose that will be important for the evaluation of your qualifications. And I have a video here where we explained why a PhD application was rejected. You should also try to see that video. I'm going to link it on the screen right now. It was basically because this candidate did not really focus his research area in his statement of purpose. Now, the second thing you want to do is it should contain, your SOP should contain explicit areas of science ed focus or foci, what you're going to focus on, which is kind of related to the first point. But you, of course, want to describe your experiences that relates to science education. You know, I said this particular department is a science ed department. So for whatever field you are going to, your experiences should be related for the most part. If they are not directly related, after describing that experience, you should be able to tell us the transferable skill or transferable experience you are going to get out of that will be helpful for you when you get to the PhD program. So you should be able to describe transferable skills that you gain from the previous experience that will help you succeed in this new PhD journey. And of course, to score high, it has to be well written with few grammar and spelling mistakes. That's what they expect for high-level writing for PhD students. And if you're going to score low, statement is unfocused. And length is either, you can see length is important if they have stated it in the instructions. So if they are stated in the instructions, length is important. So if the length is too short or too long, you are going to score low. You're going to score low. Even if this is a great write-up, you might still score low because you did not follow instructions. A lot of things in grad school will depend on you being able to adhere to instructions. Now, some of the last things here, official transcripts, you can see it's even one of the last things they look at. But in order to score high for this department, you can see they have a very competitive department, and the minimum the minimum they want is 3.5 in order to score high. So that's 3.5 out of 4. So for medium, you can see between 2.7 and 3.5. And low, if you're going to score low, your GPA will be below 2.7. So this is why I said it is possible to have a low GPA. It's possible to have a low GPA and still get admitted, because they use rubrics like this for the most part to judge the qualities of students. So not all departments, I guess not all departments will do this. There will be some that will just blatantly screen out people with low GPA. There might be some like that, but a lot of departments use rubrics, and they will just score it like this, 3-1 for each criteria, and add up the score at the end to select the top candidates that would come for interviews or whatever will be the next step. So it's possible to have a low GPA and still get in if you score high on all other things. So that's why if you have a low GPA, then you have to take those exams, GRE and TOEFL, and make sure you excel there. We've talked about how to set up yourself for admission and funding. If you have a low GPA, I made a lot of suggestions. I think I have a video here on this channel, and if you go to our Instagram page, there is also a post on the Instagram page that explains some of the ideas that you can take into consideration if you have a low GPA. But of course, if you have a high GPA as well, you still want to try to score high on all other criteria that we described here. Okay. What's the last? Let's look at this last thing. Other submitted materials. These materials can be published, research writing. So you can of course submit other materials, right? So apart from the stringent ones that they require, if you have other things that can support your application, I remember I had someone who they do a lot of field work, so he supported his application with some of the evidence of some of the field works he has done, some of the supervisory work he has done in the field. So he just collated some of this experience and added it to his application, attached it to his application, and also described it in the SOP. So that helped. And it can also help if you have other materials, research in progress, field work write-ups. You can see field work write-ups, curriculum samples, etc. So even though they are not rated on the rubric, if there is some kind of tie, with maybe we have many people with the same score on this rubric, right? Now we are going to look at other intangibles to see who is a star among these people. So that's why it's important you kind of add something extra if you have them on your application. So that is all I have for you. I hope this gives you an understanding of how graduate admissions committees think, what they look at, so that you can plan to score high when they start grading your application. So that's all I have today. I'm Dr. Ojo. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and of course, like I always say, I wish you all the best in the pursuit of your goal. Peace.